That's great. Yeah.
That's great? Okay.
And okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I sort of look toward the green shirt.
Yeah, sorry, you can just look towards me.
Towards you. Okay, we're at the second site we dug. Remember the Elkhorn Saloon we excavated. We didn't just surface collect it. We did about 60 to 70% of the ground surface. The drugstore we did 100% of the ground surface from the front where we walked in here. You see it's all grown over again with desert plants. And then back here there's a little stone building which has a very pronounced set of foundations. Little square building, and I'm standing near the front door. And we have a picture of this. We have a picture of Charles Case standing in front of his drugstore out there on Main Street with his horse and his dog. But we also have a photograph of this. It was, strangely enough, it looks like a house, but it's false fronted. It was the office of the lawyer A.S. Potter. He rented it from the owners of the drugstore. And it's got an unusual thing we'll film later. Behind him, there's a double stone wall on that side. We still don't know why that wall is double. Unless there was something heavy inside or insulation. So this is a drugstore. It was initially established and run by Julius Wagner. Then he left, and then Charles Case, who's in that interior photograph of the Cosmopolitan restaurant, he's sitting at that table. Case then ran as a drugstore. Both Wagner and Case are professional druggists. That was, they went to school and had degrees, so they could make prescriptions. Doctors could order prescriptions here. What we found when we dug the surface here is we found little weights, which are pharmaceutical weights. We found parts of bottles that held different drugs to make compounds out of. And we could, strangely enough, we were using Paul Crosby, who was a geologist at what was then Dixie College. We were using his geology lab as our archaeology lab in the summer. Spring and summer. And they happen to have an exhibit in that same science building of a pharmacy from right after 1900 from St. George, and we could match a lot of the bottles that we were digging up with what's in the exhibit, which is no longer there, by the way. It's gone now. So we found a lot of pharmaceutical items, found a long ceramic wand-like thing. Some students who had worked in pharmacy said they were pretty sure that was for counting out pills. So people got prescriptions from their doctors and they were filled here. Again, this was closed down before the saloon and before the general store. The pharmacist left. Oddly enough, Julius Wagner was one of the early pharmacists. He is listed in Scientific American. In the 19th century, Scientific American would print things from the patent office that they thought were important. And they have a type of plug to go into wooden barrels to siphon out the cider or whatever's in it. And that was patented by Julius Wagner, and he lists his location as Silver Reef. And they printed an image, not of him, but of the invention. So he gained some national recognition, I guess, for that, for 15 minutes or whatever. And so these were part of the professional group. There were doctors here. There was one dentist at least, and there were these two at different times pharmacists. And of course, Johnson behind there, I should have mentioned this earlier, behind Cosmopolitan Restaurant, J.E. Johnson, who's a local Mormon from St. George, he ran a drugstore also. And he was the first editor of the newspaper. He created the Silver Reef Echo. He earlier ran a newspaper in St. George called The Pomologist, because agriculture and pears. But then he set up the Silver Reef Echo. But he only issued one issue and it died, possibly because there weren't enough people then, this is 1877, or because he was a Mormon. Then the newspaper's reestablished in 1878 as the Silver Reef Miner, and it runs from 78, 79, 80, 81, 82 into early 1883 when it dies, when the town begins to die away. So we're going to now move further up, and what's between here, on the other side, by the way, of the Wagner Case drugstore, is Center Street again. So that's empty. Then there's a series of stores and saloons up above here, which we can take a quick look at, and then we'll go to Chinatown. Again, watch out for cactus.